Well, it's Wednesday, and you all know what that means. As you probably know, New Japan Pro Wrestling continues with more to Road to Destruction. This one, of course, features a double main event in, of course, Sapporo. We have, of course, the IWGP Jr Heavyweight Tag Team belts on the line. Members of the House of Losers, Doiki and Sho, defend them against the Ichiban Sweet Boys, Robbie Eagles and Kosei Fujita. So this is going to be a very interesting matchup. And then, of course, we have the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. Our current champion, El Desperado, will defend the championship, of course, against Yo. Now, of course, Yo hasn't won this belt. Some people say this could be his lucky day, so we'll see how that rolls up as we go. And then, of course, we move on with WWE Evolve. A huge announcement has been made by the Prime Minister of Evolve, Stevie Turner, involving, of course, some big event matches coming up involving the women's and the men's Evolve Championship. So I can't wait to share this. And, of course, we do have some interesting matches involving that. And then finally, of course, AEW Dynamite has entered the fallout after All Out in Toronto. As you know, we do have some title exchanges. We did have, of course, titles remaining. But the real question we ask ourselves, where do we go from here? That is a question I think many of us are definitely going to be looking into. And then finally, of course, we'll wrap up our episode as usual with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, including the developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. Any world of pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us or click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, it's time to put up and shut up. So, let's of course start with our very first review, and this is of course New Japan Pro Wrestling. Alright, New Japan Pro Wrestling. This is day 10 of Road to Destruction. Now, some of their events were not even broadcast. They were mostly house shows, in case anybody asks. But this is their latest show that just took place, and it happened in Sapporo. Now, of course, they did have a bit of a pre-show involving the Young Lions. First team we have, of course, was Zane J and Masatori Yasuda. They take on Tatsuya Matsumoto and Katsuya Murashima. Now, of course, many people would often say that Murashima has a little bit of experience away from these other three guys, which it's common. But however, as always, we've been impressed so far with what's his name, with Yasuda picking up some good wins. He was able to apply a Boston Crab onto Matsumoto, and just like that, Matsumoto, of course, had to tap out, leaving, of course, Yasuda and Jay to win the match. So it was a very interesting one right there. Now let's jump into the main card of the event. Of course, we have a one-on-one Master Wato taking on the Ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi. Now, of course, you all know why this match is important, because very soon, we're not that far off. I think we're about, let's see, we're in September now. October, November, December. 4 months away till he retires. That's one of the crucial things. Many wrestlers want to have their one-on-one matches. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for Master Wato, and hopes he can pick up a huge win onto him. But of course, the Ace, as you know, we know that he can barely hold on due to the fact that his knees has been shot up and declining for a while. But he was able to walk away with the win when he applied a high five flow, and just like that, the Ace picked up the victory. Now, our next match, we have Shoma Kato, Ryusuke Taguchi, and Tiger Mask. They take on GBH's Tomoaki Hamna, Togi Makabe, and of course, a former member of GBH, then Chaos, now Hantai. We're talking, of course, Toru Yano. It's great to see these three guys unite, even though Yano doesn't consider himself as a member of GBH anymore. But it's great that he gets to team up with these guys. But of course, you look at GBH, they're all heavyweight competitors. You look at most of these guys, the other team more, I don't know if you consider Shoma Kato as a junior heavyweight, but that's what it seems like. But in the end, of course, it was Makabe that put Shoma Kato in the Boston Crab and forced him to tap out. And just like that, Hamna, Makabe, and Yano picked up the win. Next up, we have the House of Losers. We're talking about, of course, Dick Togo, Evil, and Don Fale taking on Yuya Uemura, Shota Umino, and of course, our current never openweight champion, Boltin Oleg. Now, many of you may know this. This is a preliminary match involving, of course, the never openweight championship. Don Fale, or should I say Dumb Fale, issued a challenge against Boltin Oleg for the never openweight championship. And of course, this is going to be a very interesting match. Now, we have seen time and time again when it comes to the House of Losers that they often cheat their way through by using weapons, causing the bell, that sort of thing. But however, that wasn't the case, because it was Yuya Uemura who got Geto in a hurricanrana, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. And of course, like big babies, the House of Losers are, they retaliated. You know, they decided to show who's boss, but Boltin Oleg was like, oh, hell no. So he fought back, sending a direct message to Fale saying, don't mess with me, and don't even think about you're going to win this match. So we'll see how that rolls up in Destruction, and hopefully. Excuse me. Now, our next match, we have the Bullet Club War Dogs, consistent of Geto, Oscar, and Yudo Ice. They take on Taka Michinoku, Taichi, and Tomohiro Ishii. Also considered this also as a preliminary match. As you all know, Oscar, who was known as Oscar Lobe, and Yudo Ice, known as Yudo Nakashima, they returned, joining part of the Bullet Club War Dogs, and now they're aiming for the IWGP heavyweight tag team belts, currently in the possession of both Tomohiro Ishii and Taichi. And the reason they've been attacking them was because they made it clear from day one that they feel that they haven't defended them, which is true, but I'm not saying it was a bad thing. The problem is Taichi was busy with the G1. No one was challenging against them, but they decided enough is enough. But you probably would have thought in recent times we have seen the Oscar Lobe and Yudo Ice pick up the win. They ended up, but not this time, because it was Taichi with a brutal super kick onto Geto, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. But of course, Oscar Lobe and Yudo Ice decided to retaliate over this, and of course, everybody had to fight back to show them that they're not playing games, you know. So you probably know how that's gonna roll up from there. Now, our next match, we have the unaffiliated Hiromu Takahashi, Yota Tsuji, and Shingo Takagi taking on the Bullet Club War Dogs, Taiji Shimori, David Finlay, and Gabe Kidd. Now, of course, many of you know this, as Gabe Kidd is going to be defending the IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship against Shingo. And of course, David Finlay has his spare issues towards Yota Tsuji. So you know how that role was going to play out, because there's going to be some issues. But, however, in the end, it was, of course, the ghetto clutch by Taiji Shimori onto Hiromu, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. And of course, the battle on between Gabe Kidd and Tagagi continues. Finlay with Yota Tsuji. But however, Hiromu had other plans. For many of you who know this, he defeated Yohei to win the GHC Junior Heavyweight Championship, and now he wants to defend it against Taiji Shimori. Taichi declined for obvious reasons. He's like saying, I'm not gonna challenge for this belt, because I think he feels, I don't know, like this one has no meaning in New Japan. For many of you who don't know this, Taiji Shimori originally came from Noah before heading to New Japan, and there's videos I've seen of him, but Hiromu is still insistent, so we'll see how that rolls up. Now, our last match before our double main event, we have the House of Losers, Sanada, Yujo Takahashi, and then Ren Narita taking on TMDK Hartley Jackson, Rohit Oiwa, and Zack Sabre Jr. So, of course, this is another preliminary match. For many of you that know this, Ren Narita will be challenging for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Zack Sabre Jr. in Destruction in Kobe. So that practically it is. But of course, we all know how these idiots are, the House of Losers. They like to cheat their way through. And that's exactly what happened. Sanada used the guitar onto Hartley Jackson. Well, he actually used his hand and hit the backside to make it sound that Hartley Jackson whacked Sanada, and the referee believed the BS, and just like that, it was over. But however, of course, the House of Torture, this House of Losers, decided to send a direct message, and Ren Narita, as you know, is sending a message to Zack Sabre Jr., telling him that he's going to take that belt away from him. He tells later in the both post-match comments, "Hey, Takeshita, you got to be kidding me! You never won the G1. It was, of course, Evil who won it." Try to rewrite history. This shows why the House of Losers are losers, because they think they're better. They think they know what the real truth is. No, they're losers. But we'll see what happens. Now, speaking of losers, of course, our double main event, our semi-main event, we have, of course, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team belts. Of course, Sho and Doki, member of the House of Losers, defend the championship against the Ichiban Sweet Boys, Robbie Eagles, and Kosa Fujita. And of course, it was a pretty good match, not gonna lie. But, you know how this whole thing with a show is gonna be. He decides to use weapons in order to pick up the win. And in the end, of course, somehow Kosa Fujita got played by Doiki, and Doiki just retained the belt, and they ran away like cowards that they are. And just like that, it was over. Now, our main event is the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. Yo makes another attempt for this title, a title that has eluded him for too long. He's facing one of the best junior heavyweight competitors in the world, El Desperado. I have to say, the match was fantastic. It showed a lot of character with Yo, that he's determined to win. But when it comes to El Desperado, you know that he's determined to win too. And he applied the Pinche Loco, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. It was a pretty good match. However, during the post-match, a familiar face from El Desperado's past showed up, and guess who that person is? Doiki. For those who don't remember, Doiki was injured because El Desperado had a match, and Doiki injured himself, and now he wants to reclaim it. Now, if I was El Desperado, I would be more careful, knowing too well that Doiki has friends that will back him up. If I was Doiki, get your friends from Hantai and help you out, knowing too well that the House of Losers would stop at nothing to obtain every belt and control New Japan under their terms. But we'll see what happens in the end. But as of right now, we are officially done with New Japan. Let's move on with WWE Evolve. WWE Evolve. We opened up with a very special announcement from the Prime Minister of Evolve, Stevie Turner. Now, she did mention about plans that she wants to make. Now, the plans that she made for this evening was, in fact, Chase U, Uriah Connors, and Cale Dixon will face off against the members of Vanity Project, more specifically Swipe Right, Brad Baylor, and Ricky Smokes. But however, that wasn't just the biggest announcement. Apparently, they'll have, of course, a very special Tubi show that you can watch for called Secession that will happen, of course, I believe, on the 10th of October. But the plans that she wants to do is to have singles competition for both the Evolve men's and women's championship. And that's something that she's going to determine within the next couple of weeks. And hopefully those matches happen. So we'll see where it goes. Now, in the ring, we'd see Kendall Gray, as you know, who last week came out on top when she defeated Wendy Chu and, of course, made her say, "I quit." But the one thing that she wants in this matter is the Evolve Championship, which currently is in the possession of Callie Armstrong. So Callie Armstrong came out, of course, believing that this match was going to happen, but someone else wants that belt, and that is Chantel Monroe. She also wants a piece of it, but however, Stevie Turner showed up and, of course, made a major announcement because she told Callie Armstrong this match needs to happen in a singles competition, one-on-one. So she decided that Chantel Monroe and Kendall Gray will fight off as a number one contendership. Whoever wins will meet up with Callie Armstrong in Secession. So we'll see where that goes from there. Now, the Vanity Project, as you know, they've been determined to undermine Stevie Turner's authority, trying to prove that they are the ones in charge. And of course, Stevie Turner told her that there's going to be a number one contendership between Keanu Carter, and of course, what's his name? Oh yeah, and Brooks Jensen, whoever walks out. But Jackson Drake says, hell no, that's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. And of course, Stevie Turner said, it's happening whether you like it or not. But of course, they had to make their way through the ring to take on Chase U, Uriah Connors, and Cale Dixon. And I have to say, it was a pretty good tag team match. I mean, they may not fill in like the story we had with Duke Hudson, Thea Hale, and of course Riley Osborne, but Connors and Dixon, they were pretty amazing. I have to say they did a pretty good job. But however, Swipe Right were able to pick up the victory when they applied the super swipe onto Connors, and just like that, Ricky Smokes picked up the win. 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, during the post-match, Jackson Drake is saying, I'm not going to do this, Stevie Turner. I'm not defending the belt against either of them. I don't care. But he did send Bryce Donovan to take care of the matter. So you know what that means. He's going to try to wipe out both Keanu Carver and Brooks Jensen to ensure they will not be the ones, the competitors. But, however, of course, Stevie Turner, I'm sure she's not going to let this one slide. If somehow, I believe, if Stevie Turner heard what she said, if I believe this, I would say that Stevie Turner may have a backup plan. So, we'll see what happens until then. Now, Jax Parley and Marley Riggins, as you know, had a nice workout, but apparently they received a text from the Prime Minister of Evolve, Stevie Turner, letting him know that Adrenaline Drip, Jack Cartwheel, and Cappuccino Jones want to have a rematch against them. Now, of course, Riggins was not okay with the idea, but Paxley said, you know what, we already beat them once. We'll do it again, make it even worse. So that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, Chewy Martinez decided to do a little scouting about the main event, which is the number one contender for the Women's Evolve Championship. She talked to, of course, Layla Diggs and Mason Holiday about what they see. And of course, Nikita Lyons was there, saying, I don't care about that. I should be the one. I said from day one, I want the champion. I don't care if I have to go through. So that's exactly what she wanted. And Wendy Chu was there, and once again she spoke, saying, this is not working out for me. So she just left, and it was like, okay, we had not heard that. Now, It's Skull was having a nice conversation with Stevie Turner about his apparent workout with Jamal Hampton, and then of course Rich Holland showed up saying that he should be the number one contender, not Carver and of course Jensen, and then Tate Wild showed up and saying Rich Holland's telling him he's going to quit, not yet. So basically he just left. So things are out of control. Now, our main event is the number one contender for the Women's Evolve Championship. So we did see Chantel Monroe take on, of course, Kendall Gray. So this is one of those matches that is going to be insane, like any other match. I have to say it was a pretty good match because back and forth. We didn't know how this was going to end, but it was going to be a blast. And that's exactly what was happening. I mean, you thought for a moment Monroe had this in the bag. Then you have Gray. But the one thing that took an opportunity is for Gray to apply her strongest move, which was the armbar. And of course, just like that, Monroe had no choice but to tap. So that means Kendall Gray will meet Callie Armstrong at Secession. And this is going to be a really, really fun event. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen. So as of right now, we are now done with Evolve. Let's move on with our last and final review. And that is, of course, AEW Dynamite. Okay, AEW Dynamite. We entered the fallout from All Out, of course, and they made their way in Pittsburgh. Now, of course, many people know that is Britt Baker country, but it had nothing to do with that, of course. Let's just put it out there and make that clarity for everyone so don't get their hopes up. Now, of course, we opened up with our AEW World Champion Hangman Page giving a very strong promo, talking about, of course, Kyle Fletcher, talking about, of course, that he does deserve to be in the ring. He brought everything into the table, but he knows for a fact that one day he will become AEW World Champion, but that wasn't going to be the day. But of course, he put out an open challenge against anybody who would challenge, and the first to answer it was Lee Moriarty, and he told him, Moriarty, bring in your A game, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Now, our first match of the evening is, of course, it's for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. Brodito will defend their championships once again after successfully retaining them in the four-way ladder match they face against the Gates of Agony, Bishop Khan and Teo Leona, with, of course, Ricochet and Toe. Now, Ricochet ended up in the commentary table, watching the whole thing, giving his thoughts. But, of course, I knew that bald-headed idiot was going to get involved. And, of course, he got caught with his hand in a cookie jar. And, of course, Aubrey Edwards just tell him, you're out. Just like that. But that gave enough time for Brodito to try to execute their statement by retaining this championship when, of course, Bandito applied a 21 plex, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, Alicia Atout conducted an interview with the conglomeration about, of course, their thoughts about their match against Don Callis, but who is the mystery partner. But, of course, let's just say we had our suspicions, but we'll get to that. And then, of course, we did see a bit of the clone thing happening once again. So, we'll talk about that some other time. Renee Paquette had decided to do an interview with our newly crowned AEW Women's World Champion, of course, and that is Chris Statlander. And, of course, Chris did say, look, I love Mina, but not in the same type of sense as Toni Storm does, which she made that perfectly clear. But she is no doubt certainty that this is going to be a good match to watch. So we'll see what happens. Now, our next match is for the AEW World Title in the Open Challenge. Lee Moriarty makes his first attempt for this championship. But of course, you know perfectly well that Lee Moriarty is also a technical wrestler. He'll try to bring in his A game. But however, of course, there have been moments where Hangman was attempting to apply the Deadeye, but failed to do so until he finally got that opportunity that he needed. And then just like that, 1, 2, 3, Deadeye was over. Now, after what happened All Out, Adam Copeland was with Christian Cage, really distraught for what, of course, those dumbasses FTR did to his wife. Spike pile drived her after Kip Sabian handcuffed him. And of course, we saw that footage. And then, of course, FTR made the way to the ring to justify what they did. But someone was not going to take this lightly, and that is someone who Stokely Hathaway had his dealings with in the past. And that is, of course, Willow Nightingale. And he said that people like Beth Copeland are the reason that they don't take any shit from anybody. You can tell that FTR, of course, wanted to hurt her, but Stokely decided to tell her to go home, and then, bam, bitch slap in the face, which, of course, many of us were expecting. FTR was about to do the same thing what they did to Beth, but luckily Jet Speed showed up and took care of business. I'm sure we're going to see more of that between them. As you probably can guess, this thing between Willow and what happened to Beth is not going to go away likely. Now, of course, MJF, after what happened All Out, is distraught about how things were going. I don't know what's going to happen to him, but we'll see where that goes. Now, our next match is the Don Callis family, Konosuke Takeshita, Heiichi Seto, and our AEW Unified Champion Okada were in fact in the ring. Of course, Don Callis tried to show a portrait of himself until, yep, he showed up. And of course, Rocky tried to run for it, but Orange Cassidy moved out of the way, doing like a bit of a version of nope. And just like that, the conglomeration took care of business. And just like that, you know how things were going to go. But we noticed, of course, tensions between Okada and Takeshita. Now, a part of me is going to think that maybe Takeshita's going to be kicked out, but that we'll just wait until we cross that bridge. But in the end, it was a hologram that picked up the win with the portal bomb, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, during the post-match, we did see the TNT champion, Kyle Fletcher, as you know. He talked about how he felt that he proved himself, that he was main event worthy. But, as you know, he has not lost the TNT championship of late, so he decided to put his belt on the line against a man who in fact is undefeated, and that person is Hologram. So that's exactly what's going to happen. So this is going to happen next week, and of course he's begging him to say that, you know, the bow down to him, but Hologram is not going to bow down to him one way or the other. Now, Renee Paquette talked to Mina Shirakawa about, of course, her main event match against Chris Statlander for the AEW Women's World Title. She did state that she's doing this out of revenge for, of course, Toni Storm, which, of course, it was bound to happen. So, we'll see how that goes. Now, we did saw what happened in All Out, the reunited Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and Luchasaurus. And it was announced that they will be making the return next week. I'm excited. I'm sure many of you guys are excited. Now, Claudia Castagnoli goes in action against Powerhouse Hobbs. Of course, as you all know, the Death Riders are making a statement to claim that they still are the ones going to take over AEW. But Powerhouse Hobbs took matters in their own hands as much as possible to try to dismantle them until, once again, Pac decided to get involved and allowed, of course, for Claudia to apply an uppercut. Then, of course, an inside cradle, and just 1, 2, 3, it was over. But the full force of the Death Riders showed up to take out Powerhouse Hobbs. Samoa Joe showed up too. But later, of course, here comes Hangman Adam Page, who, of course, as you all know, the Ops had their back when he was at war with Moxley. And, of course, Hangman decided to repay a favor, knowing too well, hey, you guys had my back, I got your back. So, this thing between them and the Death Riders is far from over. Now, the biggest news, this is something we've been expecting for who knows how long, maybe a year or maybe a little more, I don't know. Tony Khan has announced, because we have a very stacked women's roster, it's now happening. We got the AEW Women's Tag Team Championship taking place. And of course, Renee Paquette had the privilege to unveil these belts. And of course, the real question is, who's going to be the first? Well, I know for a fact people are saying they want to see Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa do this. And I know we're going to have talent not only from AEW and Ring of Honor be involved. I wouldn't be surprised if we get talent from Rev Pro and, of course, CML to make their appearance. Oh, and Stardom, of course. We can't forget about that. So, of course, there's a long list, but that's another conversation for another time. Now, our main event, of course, is the AEW Women's World Championship. Mina Shirakawa makes another attempt for this belt against Chris Statlander. But however, of course, before the match even started, dumbass Wheeler Yuta showed up to whisper in her ear. Now, of course, it wouldn't be surprising that the Death Riders are interested in recruiting her. And that's exactly what they attempted to do. But however, I have to say the match was pretty good. Mina Shirakawa, of course, being Mina. But in the end, Chris Statlander once again used the seatbelt onto her, the same way she did to Toni Storm. And then during the post-match, we did see Harley Cameron making her congratulatory moments with Chris. And then the Death Riders showed up because, as you know, they tried to recruit her. And Wheeler Yuta tried to congratulate her, saying, see, this is why we're friends. And all of a sudden, wha-bam! Chris Statlander took his ass out. And then, of course, she flipped Jon Moxley. And, of course, Statlander and Harley just bounced out until Darby Allin showed up with the flamethrower. Now, Jon Moxley can say that he's done with Darby, but Darby is telling him it's not over yet. So he told him that at Wrestle Dream, it's going to be an I Quit match. Of course, Moxley probably is feeling like, I just had enough with this crap. You know, I have to say, not to make it like a negative thing, but Darby has become the cockroach that refuses to die. So, I think that's what Jon Moxley has to deal with. But, we'll see. So, we'll see what happens this Saturday and next week. So, until then, we'll end things with our reviews right here and move on to our last and final thing, news updates. Alright, so welcome to our news updates. So let's begin as always with upcoming events. So let's get started. Now, we have two events coming from GCW. As you know, that on October 4th, they'll be making their way to Anchorage, Alaska for the Last Frontier. Two matches have been announced for that particular event. We have Matt Tremont to take on Zachary Wentz. Then we have, of course, Atticus Cogar taking on Slade. And then, of course, they'll be making their two-day event in Atlantic City for Fight Club. The match has been announced for night 2 on the 12th of October. We have this group called Vandal 48 that features, of course, the Cogar brothers and another person. They face against Charles Mason, Slade, and Krolls. So that's pretty much for that. Sendai Girls, as you know, they just started the annual Jaja-Uma tournament, which is for the wrestlers who only have 3 years of experience. And as you all know, I mentioned on the last episode about, of course, who's participating in that event. However, they just announced there's going to be a first and second round taking place on the 1st of October in Shinkiba. Now, here's how it's going to be during that. Let me pull that up for all of you so we can see it. Here it is. Okay. First, it's going to start out with Soy versus Spike Nishimura. Now, whoever walks out from that match, they'll be facing against Yuki Fuma. So, few girls have some buys. Then we have, of course, Yuka Yasuki taking on Rian. Whoever walks out of that match will take on Mirai Kuga. And then we have, of course, Sora Ayame versus Reaseto. Whoever comes out of that one will face against the Sendai Girls Jr. World Champion Yuna. And then finally, we have Emma Maishima versus Miku Kane. Whoever walks out of that match will face against Senka Akatsuki. So yeah, and then they mentioned that the semifinals will take place on October 17th, and the finals will take place in Corkin Hall on November 6th. November 16th, yeah. So it's going to be a long way to get there. Now, as you know, CML has announced for the Grand Prix de Amazonia, which is a women's event, and they just mentioned Team World participants. And here's who's participating, and here's the promotions they represent. We have Kenji, who represents Rev Pro, which is in the UK. Diamante represents Ring of Honor. Then we have Shoko Nakajima representing both MLW and TJPW. Hazuki and Koguma are representing, of course, Stardom. And then we have four for AEW, and I mentioned her name before, Mina Shirakawa. And now we have the whole set of Triangle Madness, Sky Blue, Julia Hart, and Tekla participating. So this is going to be insane. And then finally, then we move on, of course, with Jersey Championship Wrestling, with Possession taking place on the 26th of October at Ridgeway Park at the Mecca, the Cowboy Way. Mance Warner and Thomas Shire will take on Beast Dog, consisting of Beast Bad and Mad Dog Connolly. And then finally, we have that collaboration between both West Coast Pro and Prestige with Strength Beyond Strength on the 7th of November. The Golden State Championship will be defended. Alpha Zoe, if he is still champion, because he will be facing against Travis William on the 12th of next month in October. He will be defending that belt against what's his name? Oh yeah, he's facing JT Thorne, but he will be facing Travis William if he's still champion. So we'll see what happens until then. So that's it for the upcoming events. Here is some development. Now, many of you know this. I mentioned this. TNA has announced that Mickie James will be inducted in the TNA Hall of Fame. However, she's not the only ones. They announced the Beautiful People, Velvet Sky, and Angela Love, the original Beautiful People, will be in fact inducted into the Hall of Fame. So congratulations, ladies. Now, many of you saw what happened this past Tuesday with Jazmyn Nyx. She was attacked, but later it's foretold that she is going to be leaving NXT, and this is what, of course, what's his name? PW Insider reported. Let me pull that up real quick for all of you guys. So, according to what they're saying, that WWE wrote Jazmyn Nyx out of the company's story on Tuesday, and said that she turned down an offer to sign a new deal with the company. Multiple sources have confirmed that she declined what WWE offered her when her existing contract expires. She will be a free agent and clear to wrestle anywhere she chooses if she wishes. Mike Johnson, PW Insider, Elite. So that's exactly what happened. Now, of course, Jazmyn Nyx had to go on her social media to give her explanations, the reasons why, and this is where she says, "There's been things circulating, and I kind of just want to set the record straight that I'm not re-signing with WWE. This was a personal decision I had to make for myself and for my future. Personally, the contract that they were offering for me for the next 3 years just wasn't going to cut it for me financially, and that's okay. I kind of just wanted to give a backstory of everything. I will say that there have been a lot of opportunities that I have turned down and passed up. But now that I'm out of the job, I kind of explore these opportunities more and take them more seriously. Jazmyn Nyx fans, thank you so much for supporting me, having my back for the past 3 years, and I've been an amazing journey, and I will miss you guys. Yeah, this is it for Jazmyn Nyx, so thank you guys for watching me. I love you guys so much." Now, I did hear that, of course, many of you who know this, that Jazmyn Nyx was a pro soccer player, so she was playing in Iceland. So there were some opportunities that she wanted to do, and she wasn't a wrestling fan, of course, but I feel like she wants to step away from that. It sounds like that's what she wants to do, step away from pro wrestling, and there's nothing wrong with that. We have seen wrestlers that do that a few times, but this is one of the key things. Someone commented about saying, go back to your homophobic boyfriend or something like that. She is in a relationship, in case anybody asks. I don't know about that, about her boyfriend being homophobic, so that's exactly what they're saying. Now, once again, Masha Slamovich, as you know, the whole story continues. As you all know, there's been an internal investigation regarding about, of course, her being in a domestic violence with her ex-boyfriend, Akira. This is what Fightful Select reports. WWE have plans using Masha in the NXT TNA Invasion angle that would be paused if there would be any. She was never planned for September 23rd angle. Masha's contract with TNA is up relatively soon, and it's still up in the air whether or not she remain with the company. She's scheduled to lose the TNA Knockouts World title against Ash by Elegance, which is now in question. So, basically, there were plans to use her, but now because of the scandal, we don't know this whole thing. We don't know what's going to take place. But hopefully, we get to hear from her side of the story and what else we don't know. So, that's something. Um, Finn Balor, as you know, went up to Tokyo Sports, and this was translated by via Fightful Select. Finn Balor was talking about that he wants to wrestle Hiroshi Tanahashi one last time. It's like his way of saying thanks to him for the opportunities he has in New Japan before making his way to WWE. And this is what he said. I respected him outside the ring too. When I was young lion and rode the New Japan bus for the first time, he was sitting across from me and I was nervous and I thought it was a dream that my favorite wrestler would become my colleague and I want to fight him one more time before he retires. That would be great to be his final opponent, but I'm not that lucky. But I want to take this opportunity and say a few words to Tanahashi. You had an incredible career. Thank you for being such a kind foreign wrestler in New Japan. Mr. Izuka, Mr. Liger, and Mr. Nagata. Everyone's so kind, having teammates like family supporting me, helping me adapt quickly in the ring. Harshness. It's scary to live faraway country where you don't even speak the language, but New Japan welcomed me so warmly. I'm forever grateful. So yes, he wants to, of course, wrestle Tanahashi one last time. Now, of course, we know the WWE probably won't let him do it, but I'm sure there could be negotiations. Now, some people would say, they'll let him wrestle unless New Japan drops their relationship with AEW, and I'm sure that's not going to happen. I mean, the problem is this, that New Japan has their own way of saying, look, we don't treat wrestling like entertainment, we treat it like a sport, and that's exactly what they probably would say. So we'll see what happens. I mean, we don't know for sure if that will ever come true. We don't even know who will be his final opponent, but we'll stay tuned for more for that. But as of right now, let's call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, as you probably know, we have TNA and Ring of Honor. Now, I haven't decided yet if there's going to be other events that I might review, but I don't know. I want to put this out right now because I'll be taking a bit of a procedure because I've been having my eye doctor was looking at my eye and there was a problem. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do something, but we'll see. I hope it's nothing major. They just want to make sure that it's not exactly what it is. I'm not turning blind in case anybody has. I mean, I can see clearly, but we'll see how things will roll up. So I just don't like things. I'm a bit fragile when it comes to my eyes, when something is in them poking it. I just don't like that. But anyway, we'll see how things will progress. But like I said, TNA and Ring of Honor are the top priority. So until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.